welcome to my channel. I am here to give an introduction of myself and the channel and what I'm hoping to accomplish and the community that I want to build. So if what follows interests you, I do invite you to like and subscribe. My name is Philippa Burgess, and that is the name of my channel here on YouTube. And I am a martial artist, among other things, and this is one of my Halloween costumes that showcases some of my flexibility. I've been training in Kung Fu for over a decade. I was inspired to move from Los Angeles to Colorado to be closer to my Ultra Masters and continue my training as I was in a life transition. And then I moved again, and now I'm not as close to my school, so I'm now a white belt in a local karate school. But I am looking forward to getting my 3rd degree black belt in Kung Fu through our school. And martial arts is something I'm incredibly passionate about, but it falls into line with a lot of the other things that I'm interested in, which just give you some context. I got my bachelor's in international relations from USC. That was what initially had me move to Los Angeles as an undergraduate. And I completed that degree over 25 years ago. And I'm continuing on now as a graduate student. And this summer, I record this, it's currently summer of 2022. I am completing a degree from USC Price, Sol Price School of Public Policy. And I'm completing a master's in urban and regional planning, which they refer to as an EMUP degree because it's an executive online program. And it has been amazing. I have learned so much, and I'm so excited to share the things that I am learning with you and with my community. And that is why, but I'm also continuing. I'm continuing as a student. Right now I've applied and been accepted for a certificate program, but it could very well extend into a full Master's of Science. I don't know. I'm applying for the job here with you on YouTube to build a community, share my insights, share my knowledge, and really step into being a content creator right behind being an almost full-time graduate student for at least the next year, and it could be more. And I'm going to be learning Geographic, Information Science, and Technology, which is essentially a subset within the field of data science. And with that, as a creator, I have started a show that I host that airs on 360 Talk Radio for Women. I'm now in my 2nd season, and that show is called Muse and Metrics with Philippa Burgess. That's me. And I completed season 1, and season 1 was really looking at my transitions from having grown up in New York, New Jersey, to going out to Los Angeles, to moving to Colorado. And then when my marriage blew up in COVID, calling my dad and say, "Hey, Dad, I'm coming to live with you." And then signing up for graduate school and understanding kind of what were all the things about who I am and what I'm interested in. And all these career changes I had, from working in the entertainment industry on the agent manager side, to working in digital media, digital marketing, and construction and cannabis, to ultimately being in financial compliance for cannabis and CBD companies. And so season 1 really just looks at transitions and insights and ideas I have around entrepreneurship, the creative life. And then I've come into season 2, which is what I'm currently in the middle of, where I'm talking about the things I've learned in urban planning, about how to think about things that I never thought about before being introduced to them in my program, with the intention of how do we all collectively make cities, communities, and lives better. And so I'm running through, like, what is urban planning? What is data science? How do they work together? And it's an on-air experience, and now I'm bringing it to YouTube right now in audio only, but I will be adding more specific content that is data and place. So actually place and planning data. And that's under the Muse and Metrics brand. And that has its own separate channel. And within the context of this channel, so there's 3 channels. There's Philippa Burgess, which is where you are now. There's Muse and Metrics, where I'm going to do some deeper dives into data science and place and planning data. And there's also the Entitled Developer, where I focus on the very niche of emerging developers and what they need to know about the entitlements process, which is basically where they get approvals to go forward with construction. And so data kind of comes in all forms. You can do these kind of heat maps where you see kind of how different places have different concentrations of a particular metric. How you can measure things in time, you can measure things in people, population, money, all sorts of pollution. And there you can sort of start to see equities, inequities, and just how data spreads and different like data points that we can look at. So I'm really interested in being someone who is new to data and data science, and that's a journey that I'm going to be going on, and looking forward to bringing along people who want to learn this with me. So within that, data can apply to anything. It doesn't necessarily just apply to place and planning data, which is something that I'm more specifically focused on in the Musemetrics brand, or the entitled developer, where we really focus on details that investors and developers would look at. But in this conversation, data can be really applied to anything. And as I was registering for classes this fall, I took screenshots of all the departments to see kind of what classes were being offered in any kind of major. And I noticed that data science is now in the curriculum of all majors. It does not matter what you're studying. So it's part of the next generation. It's what they're being taught. And I think it's important that we can learn it together and share and build a community around this information and these ideas. And how do we find it, analyze it, see if it makes sense, ask it questions. It's a little bit like a magic 8-ball. Do certain things relate? Do they not relate? And what can we learn, and how can we make things better? We can make graphs. We can make other kinds of visual data visualizations to communicate information. It can be used to make personal decisions, business decisions, for marketing purposes. There's a lot of ways that we can use data analysis, data visualization. And that's part of the journey that I want to be on, and incorporating and sharing things I've learned in my urban planning studies. There's a lot of community development, environmental action, and economic growth that all sort of tie together. And we can look at that from a corporate social responsibility, sustainable development point of view. And there's just kind of the intersection. I always think of planning as being the built environment, which is housing and roads, and the people part of it, society, health, just everything that goes into people and communities, and the whole thing of being a human and having a life and life expectancy and relationships and children and education and all the things that go into people and society. And then it's the natural environment, how we need the natural environment, but also the natural environment can come back in the form of fires and floods. And we are definitely seeing climate impact. And so looking at sort of our relationship to the natural environment, and then it's economics and all the things about jobs and money and companies and growth and GDP, and is the economy growing or contracting, and the global economy, and all of it's tied together by politics, public policy, and public administration. So I love kind of looking at all of those aspects and giving us things to talk about, things to think about, and having conversations around that. In my journey, because there's a lot of learning going on for my next year and beyond, but some of it I would like to invite you, as you're interested, to come and learn with me. I am going to be kind of polishing up some of my math, because I'm definitely moving in the direction of it is, whether I do the certificate or the full master's, it's science. So math is at the core of it. And because I have a background in arts, when I say like a Bachelor of Arts or a Master's of Arts, I am missing some math. One, I just haven't looked at it in decades, and two, it wasn't ever included in my curriculum. So I've now started taking classes on Allison. They're free and they're amazing. I started taking classes on Khan Academy, and I've also started taking classes at Data Camp. Data Camp's classes, the ones I've been taking are free, but I know that they also have some paid courses, but they are just, all three of these resources are amazing for learning, and I am going to be going through these courses, and anybody who wants to join me and talk about it, we can. I'm looking at calculus, statistics, probability, and just basically polishing up any other math that I need, as well as beginning coding with RStudio and Python. And so DataCamp is a great basic, get started in coding program, platform and online education. I'm also going to be learning R and RStudio, ArcGIS, Python, QGIS are all part of my Go Forward curriculum. We did have a really good class in big data that gave us an introduction to R and RStudio, so I'm starting to feel really good with it, but I just need time in and I need practice. So those are things that I want to also bring into this channel, is this data science, data analytics, and have you learn alongside of me or share the conclusions and insights that I'm getting from using these programs. I will also be learning Blender, SketchUp, ArchiCAD, and open data sources, and kind of how to use them all together to create all sorts of maps and mapping. You can fold it in with Google Earth, and there's just some really cool stuff that I want to do. And a big part of where I want to go in this next year is building my hard skills. I feel like I have a lot of soft skills. I've been a creative professionally in digital marketing, digital media, and traditional media, and I'd like to really get more technical in what I do. So I'm inviting people to come along on this journey with me, and so some of my videos will be instructional as I learn to use and get a better understanding, or just find really good resources to learn these different softwares that are at the intersection of design, planning, and data. With that, I'm here. One of my goals is to monetize this channel, build a community, and start to create online courses through Teachable that I'm invited to create through the community based on the interests that you express to me and the things that I know that I can bring into a more organized kind of online program. I'm going to start by doing as much as I can as just open video here on YouTube, but when things need to be designed or dripped out in a way that a course will make more sense, or to have a cohort or just coaching or advisory that I could provide, I will use Teachable for that. Similarly with Substack, for those who want to have a subscription as I continue to build this content. And then I have written a book, and I look forward to writing others that I can ultimately have available on Amazon. So those are some of my future growth plans. You can find me on YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Medium, LinkedIn, Clubhouse, Facebook, and Instagram. And I am committing, now that I'm really committing to this content creator journey, to make sure that I'm findable and accessible through all the platforms, with the main goal of the content I create to be here on YouTube. I do also have a pretty active TikTok channel, and I'm going to shortly kind of go through the different channels and where to find me and the different brands that I have on each channel. One of those brands is called the Entitled Developer. Now, some people think of developers as being entitled, but entitlements are actually the process that a developer needs to go to get the approvals to build. And with the channel, the Entitled Developer, I am going through city plans, comprehensive plans, master plans, transportation plans, federal reports, and reading those reports. And anybody who wants to listen in on a report, that's a good place to go. If you have an interest in development, that's a good place to go. And a lot more long form content or details that are related to the entitled developer, emerging developers, what they need to know about stakeholder engagement, about pro formas, about team building, about contracts, just lots of things that are part of our program that not only do I have a deep interest in, but I've also done advisory services for. And so that's what the Entitled Developer brand is. And then Muse and Metrics is the name of the radio show, but also where I'm going to lean in to put a lot more of what I call that place and planning data. So right now on the Muse and Metrics YouTube channel, you can find audio versions of all the radio shows, the 2 seasons that I have so far, as well as bringing a lot of some of the data analysis that I'm doing, but very much focused more on the places and the planning side of it. Zoning is a big, part of all of those conversations, and how we use zoning for residential, for industrial, for all sorts of land use, and how that we should kind of all know more about that. And so there's several conversations to be had about the history of zoning, about how zoning is used now, and how zoning can be improved for the benefit of cities, communities, and lives going forward. Also, pro formas. I can do any kind of financials on anything, or show anybody how to do that when it comes to multifamily real estate investments, developer analysis on feasibility, and kind of looking at deals. We've got a very robust education in that part of the process. And I'm also really interested in addition to all the financial pieces of it, looking at social justice, environmental justice. And so I've got here those red line maps that are available that were from the 1930s. And you can see in a lot of ways, like the maps that were from the 1930s and early 40s to the maps of today, there's a lot of similarities in the communities that were invested in and really benefited from that investment, and the communities that have been disinvested in and have really had challenges because of that. So we can look at sort of how things have transitioned. And what I love about data is we can look at it, we can make conclusions from it, we can ask it questions, kind of like a magic 8-ball, and we can create more awareness and then ideally make better decisions from that awareness. I also had a career in Hollywood, working on the agent manager side of the business, specifically with screenwriters, but also worked very closely with a lot of other creatives and just entertainment professionals on both sides of the camera, as well as doing quite a bit of work in financial compliance around e-commerce. So I do know a fair bit about e-commerce compliance and e-commerce marketing, and just all the things that kind of go into launching and having a successful store, with the focus on the marketing piece of it and the compliance piece of it. I also post a fair amount on the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Since April, I started creating content on TikTok, and that has been the focus of one of my channels. And so I do quite a bit of analysis there. I read a lot of news, both on the Ukrainian side and the Russian side, and try to figure things out, put things together, and share those insights, and ultimately support of Ukraine in their fight for their lives, their sovereignty, their freedom. And I will continue to do that, and would like to do some more long form content around that here on this channel. So where to find me? TikTok, I am Kung Fu Pippa. That's where I do the Ukraine coverage. Philippa Burgess and the Entitled Developer are the TikTok channels. On Clubhouse, you can find me at Philippa Burgess, which is my profile, and the two clubs there are Muse and Metrics and the Entitled Developer. On YouTube here, I am Philippa Burgess, Muse and Metrics, and the Entitled Developer. On Twitter, Philippa Burgess, Muse and Metrics. LinkedIn, Philippa Burgess, Muse and Metrics. And Instagram, Philippa Burgess, Muse and Metrics, and the Entitled Developer. So I thank you, and with that, I conclude the introduction to my channel. I'm super excited to have you here and share this learning journey with you, as well as anything that I know and have insights to, or things I can research and present that are valuable to this community. So with that, I ask you if you can like, subscribe, stay tuned. I'm excited to have you as part of this journey.